Hello and welcome. I'm Kateri, also known as Vinoxus. I am a professional tarot reader, and I'm here to show you my tarot collection. As always, this video is timestamped for your convenience. Feel free to skip to wherever you wish to start. My flip-throughs are comment-free if you just want to get right to the goods. Today, I have a remarkable deck to show you. I have the Final Fantasy VII Tarot Card Collection by the artist Crimson Sun. It is a self-published fan deck. Usually I would discuss pricing and where to buy, but for this deck, I'm not going to waste your time. This was a very small batch fan deck, only available through the artist's Patreon. The artist Crim will not be reprinting. By the time this video goes up, it's likely to be long gone. This is the unfortunate nature of fan decks. Fan decks are notoriously difficult to get off the ground. A reality of tarot production is the fact that tarot fulfillment is expensive and time-consuming. It often isn't worthwhile unless you have a Kickstarter behind you. And if you did start a Kickstarter, you risk getting exposed to corporate lawyers. The IP owners will usually hit the creators with copyright claims or smack them with huge licensing fees. In most cases, these decks get extremely limited printings as the creators only sell what little stock they manage to produce, or very quietly sell decks in underground markets as an extension of fan art prints. They usually don't try to ruffle feathers. I'm not sure why Crim chose to only have a limited run, but I'm not going to speculate why. However, I am assuming it's for one of those two reasons. Either tarot fulfillment is a pain in the neck, or they just didn't want to get any attention from people that might shut down the project. This is a 78 card deck using the Rider-Waite-Smith system, so let's just get right into it. Being a very small fan print, I wasn't expecting a whole lot from the box, unlike other indie decks, which often do have like crazier boxes. This is just a simple tuck box, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'd rather have it exist than not. It's just a basic tuck with no little white book. And if we're taking a look at the cards itself and the back, there's no edging. Again, I'm not expecting a whole lot for something that's such a limited run. And the backs on are gorgeous. It has the, I think it's Sector 5 slums, the church. There, we can get right up in there. It's really nice. Really nice. So cardstock wise, we have a Rider-Waite-Smith. It's the exact same size. The edges are a little more rounded if we want to nitpick here. When it comes to the quality, it's very similar to just a Rider-Waite-Smith, but it is more matte. And the one thing I find is that it's a slippery deck. Holy. Usually when it comes to deck finishes is that the linen type finish, the one that has, let's see if I can get, like the Pixel Cult Lenormand here. If you see that cross hatching, that's usually what makes it really slippy. This doesn't have that, but it's still really slippy. They didn't have a whole lot of details on the actual production of the deck, except for that it was a playing card finish, which feels very familiar. So it feels nice. Again, it does have a little gloss to it, but for the most part, it's more matte, at least more matte feeling than the Rider-Waite-Smith. I'm just gonna get right into the flip through. I definitely do have thoughts on this deck, however, and I will get right to it. It was really difficult to pick my favorite 3. Honestly, the deck is really, really dependent on your familiarity with the IP that they're paying homage to. So I wanted to make sure that I picked 3 cards that would also be good for people who are not necessarily big fans of Final Fantasy VII to connect to, because I do have a little gripe, and it's not a big one, but I will get into it. But first, we're going to talk about these cards. When it comes to the Fool, it's always a smart idea to have the main character, your Fool, because it is the Fool's journey, which is the hero's journey. These are psychological beats that the tarot goes through. So to just have Cloud as the Fool, it makes sense. With that being said, it's a gorgeously created card. The art on it's fantastic. And I know that Cloud is so recognizable when it comes to even casual video game fans that people are going to know exactly what this deck is about just by seeing Cloud on this card. The Six of Cups. I think this is probably the best depiction of the Six of Cups I've seen in a good while. Because when it comes to the Six of Cups, a lot of people don't realize, especially when it comes to Rider-Waite-Smith, because even the Rider-Waite-Smith isn't very good at depicting it. It does indicate nostalgia in looking back, almost looking back on good times, going back to things that are like childhood-like. So to go back to this scene, which is Tifa and Cloud reminiscing, because there's parts in the games where they basically will do flashbacks of them as kids, and it's very, again, it does really inspire the card very well, and I think that it's really nice. Again, this is a really intelligent decision here to take parts of the game, not just characters, but parts of the game, and pull it into especially the minors, because majors are usually characters and character archetypes. When it comes to the minors, they're often almost scenes or actions. So to show that this is like, again, that seed of nostalgia is really nice. The Queen of Swords. Listen, the Queen of Swords is a harsh woman. She will step on your neck. And who else other than Scarlet? I always expect like the Queen of Swords to be sexy. The Queen of Swords are always, they're always a little more in your face. Not so much like the Queen of Wands, which are a lot more warm and charismatic. These are harsh women, and who better else than Scarlet? Again, you don't need to know the character to know that this woman steps on some necks, and I like that. I like that a lot. So my gripes, I have a few of them. When it comes to the 3 astrological cards, or sky cards, however you want to call them, I'm not getting a whole lot out of those. These seem to be more character studies than anything, and there was a really, really, really missed opportunity for the lovers here. I'm not sure, like, I know this might be the scene that when Aerith dies. Spoiler alert for a game that's been out for 100 million years. Why not have Cloud with Tifa and Aerith? Because that would have indicated almost like a traditional tarot interpretation, which is like choices and duality. So that was a bit missed opportunity. It's a beautiful piece though. This, again, they just seem to be character studies. There's nothing wrong with these characters, but they're just kind of looking at you. I would have preferred maybe a little bit of background to have, like, showing the star, the moon, and the sun, because that would have been psychologically a little more anchoring when it comes to the actual meanings, which is hope, illusion, and joy when it comes to physical stars, the moon, and the sun. So a little bit of a missed opportunity there. And the thing is that there is cards out there like the Magician and High Priestess that actually do a really good job at, even though they're a little more simple, at actually still depicting the meanings. Because the Magician, when we have Yuffie here, who's kind of holding up that mask, we do kind of get that feeling of willpower and in control. And when it comes to the High Priestess with the eyes closed and the water, again, we're getting those feelings of unknown and intuition. So again, it's not the concept that these ones are bad in its own sense. It's just that there's nothing really more to anchor. Again, if this was a nighttime scene, this was almost somebody being a little more uncertain, like she's a little too confident for the moon. So again, a little bit of a missed opportunity there, but it's a minor gripe. Now the shuffle. The cards shuffle really nicely. Like, I'm definitely not angry. They're very slippery, which is the possible downside depending on how you prefer to shuffle. I would almost want to stretch my hands out to be able to shuffle this way, just to kind of keep them all contained. This would be really good for a riffle shuffle if you do that. I'm not going to do that because this deck is going to be really hard to get a hold of, and I really don't want to ruin it. I do like the finish. Again, we have that really nice matte type finish that lends really well to the card art. It's very, very bright, of course. I say bright, and we have the sepia toned cards, but the colors on them, again, lend very well to this cardstock. So shuffling wise, no complaints here. The rounded edges are really nice. I don't like a deck that's too rounded like that because I find it, I don't know, just kind of looks a little dopey, but when it comes to the actual shuffling with how slippery the deck is, it is a welcome addition because you're not going to cut up your hands there. Okay, final thoughts. So I do have a few. When it comes to fan decks, is that there is a little bit of limitation involved on them. And what I mean by that is that you do have to be a fan of the IP for the deck to make sense, because there is going to be characters that you might not understand, like how does that indicate thievery unless you know that character. So there is going to be some limitations there. Again, if you're not a fan of the IP, that you may not connect to this deck as easily as you would with something with a little more broadly available archetypes and images. However, if you are a fan of this IP, this is where this is invaluable for you, because you are going to connect these situations and these story beats to the meaning of the cards. If the artist made it a point to really be smart and pick out the proper story beats and proper characters for each archetype, not only this is going to be invaluable, this is more than likely going to increase your comprehension when it comes to understanding tarot, because it is really going to help anchor these archetypes to you. At the end of the day, tarot is life stories. They're story beats. It's an entire story in a deck, and you can attach any of these archetypes to any IP, to any type of fandom or anything of the sort, as long as it has a decent story in it. You will always find some sort of connection there. So decks like this is really going to help you find those connections, because now you're connecting it to stories that you know, and that is so good for your practice. It's something that I recommend to people learning, is that when you're watching television, when you're watching your favorite shows, when you're reading your favorite comic books, anything that you're doing that's media, that's definitely a fiction or even non-fiction, but fiction is really where it stands. You can actually find these tarot story beats in there, and that's how you're going to learn the cards a lot faster, when you actually see situations where the cards kind of play out at. So decks like this, again, if you're a fan of the IP, is going to be fantastic for you, as long as it's a good job. I would say about 70% familiar with Final Fantasy VII. It's been a long time since I've played it, but from what I see, with the exception of a few things, there are really good anchors here when it comes to story beats and characters. There is just some things that you would have to be really familiar with the character to understand the card. I would prefer a little more of evocative artwork on the certain cards, just kind of pulling the meanings a little bit more. However, that's more of a minor gripe than anything. I think overall the deck really does succeed at what it sets out to do, which is to make a really good fan deck. So yeah, I hope this is helpful to you in some way. Follow me on my Instagram, which is @Noxus. I'll be posting a spread inspired by this deck. You don't have to have this deck to use the spread. It's going to be a Final Fantasy VII spread. I'm pretty excited. I will also post photos of this deck throughout the week, just so you can really see some close-up photos of it. If you want to give an offering to the algorithm gods in my name, please like and subscribe to this channel, and comment below your favorite cards from this deck or any Final Fantasy VII trivia or information that you know. Let me know about it. It does help me out a great deal when you make those comments. Now, if you do subscribe, I do post tarot reviews every Sunday, and any new releases or exciting releases I try to release right away. So that subscription will be worth your while, because I will make sure you're not without. That's it for me. Good luck, and remember your power.